Good morning. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. Please note any website or email that I mention will be posted in the chat box. For those seeking business licensing assistance, you can visit the Small Business Center at City Hall or call 312-74-GO-BIZ. Also, the business licenses can be applied for or renewed online at chicago.gov/business licensing. The BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program now has a new portal, and getting your certificate is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Register for the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program. 2. Attend 6 free BACP webinars from listed categories and receive credit after each. 3. Graduate from the program and receive your certificate. Graduating from the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program makes you eligible to apply for a CIBC USA's Entrepreneurial Loan Program. For full program details, visit chicago.gov/BACP certificate. For webinar calendar, please visit chicago.gov/BACP webinars. If you already are part of the program, your account will automatically reflect the credit by joining this webinar within 24 hours. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/ChicagoBACP. I will post the mentioned information in the chat box. We encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box at the end of the presentation to send your questions. There will also be the option to raise your hand and be unmuted at the end of the presentation. Please note that the views, information, and opinions expressed during this webinar are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection or the City of Chicago. Today's webinar will be Keeping a Pulse on Your Small Business Performance, Dashboard Metrics that Work for Any Size Business, presented by Angie Noll of Reconciled Solutions and President-elect of National Association of Women Business Owners. Angie?
Excited to be here with you, Geraldine, and with this community of entrepreneurs. I'm happy to be among the members of community of entrepreneurs. I love being a small business owner, and so I'm excited to share with you some of my lessons, hard-learned lessons from the past 17 years of being in business. I'm going to share my screen and get started, and wait a second. Yes. Okay. All right, folks. I am wondering this big, ugly question. If you have ever been in a position where you absolutely hated your business, like, I mean, really, really hated it deep down, just detested it and wanted to run away and hide, or maybe go throw axes at your actual business. I have been in those shoes, and I'm going to share that story with you because I do think it comes to working with KPIs. It comes back around to that. So circa 2011, I had been in business for about 4 years, and I had 3 part-time employees at that time. I was working my butt off. Back in 2011, there wasn't much for online networking. I don't even know if Zoom existed. So what I did instead is I went to every 8 a.m. breakfast at the chamber. I went to women in business lunches. I went to after hours cocktails, and I was always working at drumming up business. But it wasn't going very well. I had a very, very difficult time coming to terms with making a profit and getting smooth processes in my business. There was always just this very difficult trifecta of where somebody was unhappy. Either it was me that was unhappy, it was my client that was unhappy, or it was my employee that was unhappy. I couldn't seem to make everybody happy at the same time, and I couldn't figure out what I needed to focus on. In my personal life, things weren't going well there either. I was a mom of 3 kids at the time. They were 7, 5, and 2. And if you've been around kids that age, you know enough to know that, gosh, there's just not enough hands to go around to manage kids of that age. You could be an octopus with 8 legs or 8 hands, and still you wouldn't have enough to get it all done when your kids are that age. So it was a very stressful time in the parenting world. And really, my marriage was in shambles. It was failing. And the reason it was failing had a lot to do with the business. My husband was mad, and he had good reason to be mad. He's a sweet guy, but he was mad because I wasn't making any money. So he had to make enough money for our family of 5, which was a lot of pressure on him. On top of it, we were paying for childcare so that I could be out working in the business and not making any money. And then on top of that, I was doing, like I said, all these 8 a.m. things, all these after hours things. So he had to rush home from the job so that he could relieve the babysitter so that he could take care of our kids. So things were not going well in our marriage at that time. It was that perfect time between Christmas and New Year's when the world kind of slows down and settles and everything gets a little bit quieter. And we decided to take a break from our day-to-day, and we borrowed a friend's cabin up in the North Woods of Wisconsin. We headed up there, and we had to borrow a cabin because we didn't have enough money to rent our own cabin. So we headed up there for some quiet time with the family, and the kids were back at the cabin, and my husband and I decided to go out for a walk in the winter wonderland. It had just snowed and it was beautiful outside, sunny day. And we're walking along, chatting, well, really kind of fighting. So we're fighting amongst ourselves, and everything really did revolve around the business. And I had so much anger built up inside of me from not being able to understand how to run this business. I thought, I'm a really smart person. Why is this not working? I'm educated. I've been doing all the right things, but something here is just not working. There's pressure on my marriage. There's pressure on my kids. There's pressure in the business. I was just so furious. There was so much pent up anger in me that I shoved my husband into a big pile of snow in the ditch, and I climbed on top of the guy, and I just started kind of hitting him. And it was kind of crazy, definitely. It was a low point in our marriage. It was a low point in my life. And it all came back around to that darn business. And what I realized at the time, as I look back at it in retrospect, is I just didn't speak the language of my business. It was talking a different language, and I was not following along. I did not have the cliff notes. And it's kind of sad to think about that, since I run a bookkeeping and accounting business. One might think like I could read all the signs because I understand financials and I understand how they work. But at that time, I didn't know what I didn't know. I couldn't put it all together. I couldn't make it work. So fast forward to 2024, and I do speak the language of my business. What I realize now in retrospect is that following my gut was not enough in a small business environment. I needed to understand how to recognize what was broken in my business and fix it. So I needed KPIs, because the KPIs were going to help me measure. They were going to help me signal for when things weren't going very well. So I needed to understand what was broken so that I could fix it. How was I going to do that? Well, I'm going to talk today about recognizing, here we go. I'm going to talk today about recognizing what your business is trying to tell you. it's a whole different thing than recognizing what's broken in other parts of your life. So, for example, if you hopped in your car to go to an office this morning, and you turned the key to your car and it didn't start, our car is very quickly and dramatically telling us that it doesn't work, right? But our businesses don't necessarily act that same way. So we've developed this business priority pyramid. It's in a book called Fix This Next by Mike Michalowicz. And you can read all about the business priority pyramid in this book. It's an excellent book. Let me say that. So he says that we have to understand the foundational need in our business before we can fix what's broken. And he says there is a hierarchy to it. There is a recurring order in which things break. So the very base of our businesses is our sales. So in a business, in a small business, we have to create cash. If we don't have cash coming in, there really is no business. That's the base level structure. And then the next thing would be profit. So that's the creation of stability when there's profit in our business, because without it, we can't improve our services. We can't change our products. We can't hire more people. There has to be profit to be able to do all of those things. Then comes order in the business, and order is the creation of efficiency. And so that's all about like understanding my role and understanding the role of the admin and the salesperson and the producer in the business, our cost of services, our cost of goods, and understanding how those all interact with each other and work together. So that's what order is about. After that comes impact, which is trying to create transformation. And transformation is when our clients are saying good things about us, when their life has changed for the better because of the service or product that your company has provided. So that's what transformation is all about. And then the creation of permanence or legacy is kind of building the business beyond, outside of ourselves. I always think of Paul Newman because I'll go to the grocery store and I'll buy some salad dressing or some pasta sauce that's in the canned goods section, and Paul Newman's face is on there, and he says, part of my profits goes to support my organization to do good in the world. And that's an example of legacy. So he's selling the pasta sauce, he's selling the salad dressing in efforts to make a legacy. So this is our business priority pyramid. And basically what they're saying is if something foundational is broken, then we need to address that first before we can move up the level. So just like if you're going to build a home, you start by pouring foundation, right? And the next thing you're going to do is put up the walls. And after you put up the walls, you start putting the roof on, and then you'll work on the interior. So then you'll start putting cabinets in the kitchen and appliances and toilets and sinks. And after all of those things are in place, then comes the design. So that's much the same in the business priority of pyramid, where we have to face that sales is the basis of everything, followed by profit, followed by order. Then comes impact, and at the top is legacy. So we have to spend all our time, most of our time is going to be spent on sales, profit, and order. And then we can start focusing in on impact and legacy. And as you can see on the side screen here, we've got these little arrows that say sales, profit, and order. Those are get measurements. And impact and legacy, those are about giving measurements. Those are about, kind of bringing people together. But first, we have to get before we can give. So getting is the basis of running a successful small business. And we can have the best, best intentions for running a beautiful DEI company, a beautiful company with a mission. But if we don't have any sales or profit coming in, then we can't support our mission. I think about my family reunion last June. So it was my year to plan the family reunion. I am the youngest of 8 kids, and we take turns each year. A different brother or sister plans the family reunion. So in 2023, it was my year, and it was going to be in Chicago. And I was so excited for all my farming family to come down to Chicago and hang with us. So I was getting my home ready. I was primping the flowers, and I replaced some beat up furniture, and I had my house cleaned top to bottom. And I was super excited about having that family come join me and all the beauty I had created in my home. But what happened is they all came and were having a good time. The activity for the day was going to go to the Cubs game. So I had arranged transportation from my suburban house to downtown Chicago, and everybody was meeting at my house. And we're grabbing some breakfast, and then we're going to take the transportation down. And everybody's having a great time. All of a sudden, my pipe bursts in my basement. So guess what? There's no going to the Cubs game when the pipe bursts and my basement is flooding. We had to stop everything we were doing and, go run to the basement and try to fix that pipe. So the same thing can be applied to our small business. You're going along, you're building profit, you're building order, you might be stepping into impact, but if your biggest client decides to leave today, you might literally have to stop everything you're doing in every other area and go back to sales so that you can reestablish where you're at. So this is what having KPIs in place is about. It's about averting disaster before it happens. And we can avert disaster, hopefully before it happens, by keeping a KPIs dashboard, measuring things along the way, and maybe seeing the signs. I didn't see COVID-19 coming. I didn't think it could really hit us so hard. And I'm not alone in that, because when it started out, everybody's talking about how we're just going to hunker down for 2 weeks in our homes and then we'll be back out. Well, 2 weeks turned into 2 months, and 2 months turned into 2 years. None of us had any idea that it would last that long, and we absolutely had to change everything that we're doing. So having some KPIs in our business is going to help us measure and impact the things that hopefully will prevent us from being in an emergency flood situation with the pipe bursting. So Geraldine, thank you, is going to put up a survey question on our screen now, and I'm going to have you take a poll with regards to what's broken in your business right now. So we'll see the results of that. It would be the sales, profit, order, impact, or legacy. So if you think about that and what's broken in your business, I'd like you to answer that poll.
Trying to pull up right now.
Okay. All right. So my next slide is about Pandora's box. So Pandora was she was a Greek goddess, and the legend is that she was the first woman on the earth, and she bears all gifts. So they gave her, the other gods, they gave her this box. They called it Pandora's box after her. And they told her, whatever you do, don't open the box. So of course, what does Pandora do? She opens the box. And because she's so curious, she wants to know what's in there. What could come out of this box? Well, what came out of the box was a lot of great troubles and misfortune. That's what came out of the box, according to the legend. But really, they also learned through that process that hope can come out. And that's kind of the way I feel about KPIs, is if we can start to recognize and see the trends in our business, hope does come out, and we can totally see and hopefully prevent some of the things that are possibly coming down the pipeline at us. So hopefully you've had enough time to fill out that survey, and we can show the results of what's the biggest broken link in your business right now. So let's see. So creation of cash. Oh, I know so much about this. Profit and cash and being able to sell along those lines is the biggest problem. And I'm not surprised by that. We'll be spending a lot more time on that today. So thank you for completing the survey. In fact, we're going to start with sales. So this is the baseline of the pyramid. And we want to be able to speak the language of the business. And what comes out? How do we speak the language of the business? So there's lifestyle congruence, prospect attraction, client conversion, delivering on commitments, and collecting on commitments. So let's talk through some of those things. The first thing that came out of Pandora's box is lifestyle congruence. If you think about lifestyle congruence, it's really what it's asking us is the amount of money that we have to make to feel safe and secure in our business, and to be able to reverse engineer that amount of money needed. So I hear from a lot of small business owners, if I could just make $100K a year for my family, I'd be happy. Okay. So my question back is, do you know how much you have to sell to be able to bring in $100K? And for most people, they don't know how much they have to sell, because there's this whole calculation of everything else that's going on in the business. There's the cost of goods, and then there's your operational expenses. And don't forget, if you're making a profit, you have to pay tax. So how much does your business have to generate so that you can make that $100,000 and be able to bring that home to your family? That's what lifestyle congruence is all about. It's being able to work that backwards. There's prospect attraction. I am certain that as small business owners, most of us have thought about prospect attraction. We've talked about who our ideal client is and tried to build a client avatar around what that person looks like and where they hang out. Okay, so that's something many of us have thought about in our small businesses. And the next step of that is client conversion. So one, how do we attract that ideal client? And then how do we share the message of our products and services and how it's going to be life-changing for them? That's the client conversion part. It's taking a lead and changing it into a sale. So what happens after client conversion is they do become clients of ours. And many people do not think of this part as part of the sales cycle, but it most definitely is. It's delivering on commitments. So when a client signs up for our product or service, we have to deliver that to them. And we want to deliver it in a way that is frictionless and easy for them to enjoy. Therefore, they'll come back and repeat sale for us. They'll either buy more or they'll tell friends and family that it was so great working with your company that they need to do the same thing. So those are evangelists that we want to bring into our business. So delivering on commitments, I need you to think of that as a very, very probably the most important part of your sales cycle is delivering on your commitments. Okay, and the last thing that comes out of the sales box is collecting on commitments. and this is often something that we don't think of as it relates to sales as well, is when a client signs up for our product or service, they have a commitment to pay us for said product or service. So we need to collect on our commitments so that we can keep going, right? So that's your accounts receivables. It's making sure that you're collecting payments on the things that you have delivered, the products and services that you've delivered. So one thing about collecting on commitments is just measuring the repeatability and accuracy of it. So that's something that we have to do to be able to deliver upon our commitments. So the next thing that we're going to talk about then would be profits. Okay, so how do you speak the language of your business when it comes to profit? Super powerful question, right? And if we only could wave the magic wand. So there's things that come out of this box. Let's see what's going to come out. So when we're talking about profit, we think about debt eradication, margin health, transaction frequency, profitable leverage, and cash reserves. First of all, debt eradication. Most of us have to start our business by borrowing. We don't necessarily have the money in the coffers to start it without borrowing, or we may just be borrowing from ourselves. So debt eradication is not that there is not debt in our business. It's not that you need to come up with the cash first to be able to buy something. It's just that you know how much debt is there. It's that you have a measurable plan so that you can pay that debt back, so that you know what you can expect as a result of borrowing that money. Okay, so that's what debt eradication is all about. Margin health is about keeping good margins and profitability in the business. So one thing about margin health is really understanding your revenue streams. We all have lost leaders in our business potentially, where we're selling something cheaper so that we can get more volume, or so that it will lead to an upsell, something else that we want to sell that has better margins. So thinking about margin health in terms of understanding both the revenue generated per profitability silo and the cost per profitability silo is really important for the success of our business. So I want to talk about that a little bit as it relates to cost of goods sold or cost of services in your business. My business, we tend to work with professional services and trades companies. Those are the two that I know the best. So I can talk about margin health the best when it comes to those. But I just wanted to cover all different types of businesses in this environment. So first of all, let's talk about retail. So if you are a retailer and you're trying to develop margin health, one of the things a retailer has to realize is that there's typically very high highs in their season and there's very low lows, meaning like if you're selling Christmas trees, you're going to sell them all in November and December. And I'm pretty sure that in February, you're not going to have very many Christmas tree sales, right? So one thing that a retailer has to be aware of is that they should not be leveraging debt to purchase their cost of goods sold. That's a really difficult thing to understand, because as small business owners, we scrap together, we bootstrap our way through life, and we're always robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so one of the ways that we do that is possibly using our credit card. So say you are a clothing or jewelry retailer, and Christmas is your biggest season. Well, you're going to be wanting to place the orders with your vendors back in September or October so that you're at the height of inventory going into the season, right? So that you have all that inventory sitting there in November. And then you're going to sell it in December leading up to Christmas. Well, the thing about that is that if you are using credit card to finance that future revenue, you are literally borrowing from tomorrow to pay for yesterday. And that's a really scary thing. We have to continually build our way out of that. And as a retailer, one thing that you can do is always set aside a portion of every sale so that you can repurchase more cost of goods. So that's the way it works in retail. For tradespeople, so if you're running a plumbing, roofing, electrician business, construction business, these are businesses where you're going out, you're looking for the sale, and when you get that sale, then you are potentially asking your customer to put a portion down. So you're interested in progress billing. So you're identifying points in your process in which you can collect. So that's how a tradesperson is going to best be able to measure their margin health, is to be able to set up progress billing and to be able to measure how much do I need to come in now to cover the cost of potential contractors that I'm hiring to do sub labor and different jobs in there, and how much do I need to collect 6 weeks of now when we reach phase 2 or phase 3 of the project. So that's something to think about there. With professional services, there's a few different ways people do it. So lawyers typically are doing a retainer fee. So they are collecting money in advance for future expenses that they're going to have, and then they replenish that. Bookkeeping, like our business, bookkeeping, we charge people at the beginning of the month for services that will happen in that month. So again, we're charging in advance for services that will be completed that month. Then there's some industries where you're dependent upon insurance to pay. So one I like to think about and that we do business with a lot is people in mental health group practices or doctors' offices and chiropractors and things like this. When insurance is paying, basically what happens when insurance is paying is there's a pretty set rhythm to how much it's going to cost you. So if a mental health therapist sees one patient, they know how much they're going to collect from insurance. You wouldn't necessarily have to have that amount set aside already in advance of paying your therapist to do that therapy service for you. So you have to think about your sales cycle and your payment cycle when you consider margin health. Another way that we improve profit in our business is through transaction frequency. So that is being able to have more transactions, and more transactions again could go back to like your lost leader. You sell your lost leader so that you can then upsell them to something else, or it could be things like there's step A, there's step B, and you're trying to get them through 5 different steps of the sales process so that they are improving their financials. So there's repeated customers, trying to improve the frequency and the repetition of transaction frequency, or there's offering complementary services and products. Okay. The next one is profitable leverage. So when $1 is borrowed, it results in predictable returns. So we know what to expect. That's what profitable leverage is about. And the last one is about cash reserves. So when COVID-19 hit in 2020, our clients were in a position where their financials were ready to go and clean. And what that enabled us to do is to get immediately out into the market and apply for different PPP loans and the EIDL loans and the ERTC credits. So our clients were able to secure money faster, and that cash reserve saw them through. And I was very proud to say that when we went through COVID-19 and helped our clients access capital through the CARES Act, we never had one client go out of business because of COVID-19. So that was something that I was really proud of, because we had built them into a position where, one, they knew they had to have cash reserves. And even if they didn't fully have the cash reserves, two, they did have clean and accurate financials so that we could go out and fill out the applications for the different CARES Act supplemental income and get them through those difficult times. Okay. So order is the next one on the business priority pyramid, and the things that come out of the order box are minimized wasted effort, role alignment, outcome delegation, linchpin redundancy, and mastery reputation. So how do we speak the language of our business? We try to develop more order in it. One of the biggest problems in my business, and I see it so often in small business, is that I, as the owner, am the bottleneck to the rest of my team. This happens so often in small business, and the reason it happens for us more than a corporation is because we have smaller staffs. So when we grow quickly, we're tapped out very quickly. And I think that is one thing that comes back around when we talk about sales is like just being able to focus both on sales and on delivering client commitments at the same time. It can be a challenge. So sometimes in a small business, the business grows faster than the ability to delegate outcomes. And we'll see outcome delegation as one of the pieces of order. It's making sure that there's not just one person that holds all the keys to the castle, that other people can do those tasks and skills too. And that is similar to linchpin redundancy, which is trying to duplicate yourself. You know, we're in an era of cloning, and I hear often that I just want to hire another me. And that's what linchpin redundancy is about. And role alignment is about making sure that we have the right butts in the right seats so that people are working from their strengths. We can think of several companies, I can think of several companies that have a mastery reputation for doing the best. Apple, think about them. They've got a very strong reputation for delivering on mastery reputation. Coca-Cola. And when I was thinking about the NFL and the MLB, they know football, they know baseball. They really are able to provide a mastery reputation of their brand. Okay, so this is a fun part, and I hope you'll be willing to participate. I want you to take action by going into the chat, which right now is in private mode, so nobody else will see your answers. And you can chat with me about what's the biggest problem in your business right now. So if something that I said triggers something for you, please go ahead and put that in the chat, and then I will talk live about that particular situation and what are some KPIs that you could point to help measure that and predict some of the problems that you're experiencing. Okay, so feel free to go ahead and put that in the chat now. I'm going to keep going and talking about KPIs, but if you put that in the chat, we will come back and answer it, and your answer will be anonymous. We won't share your name. Okay, so I'm going back to the sales KPIs, and the reason I'm going back to sales is because I think it literally is the most difficult part of our jobs as entrepreneurs, that we have to spend the most time in these 5 areas. Okay, so the first one is lifestyle congruence. Well, before we talk about lifestyle congruence, I do have another KPIs poll question. And so I would ask Geraldine to put that up now. So I'm just asking you, how many of the following KPIs you're tracking in your business right now? So are you tracking a revenue goal? Have you set a revenue goal for 2024? Do you track how many leads are coming in? Do you track how many leads you've converted to a sale? And are you tracking when a client has a problem, what the problem is, so that you are able to pinpoint how to fix it? And the last one is, are you tracking money that's overdue that needs to be paid to you? So go ahead and fill out that poll. I'm excited to see if we have people that are tracking these 5 different things, if you're tracking part of them or maybe none at all. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about lifestyle congruence and then about each of the other 4 parts of the sales business priority pyramid. These are some of the questions that will come up for people that don't have a handle on lifestyle congruence. One is that they don't know how much they need to sell. Another is that they don't know what a realistic sales goal is or realistic margins. A lot of people have a very difficult time identifying when they can pay themselves or when the money has to stay in the business to make sure that other needs are taken care of. And a lot of people have a hard time understanding what they can afford to pay. We can only remember so much of what bills are upcoming. That's why we need good software to help us measure out and understand what some future needs are and how much money we need to have set aside for those things. So hopefully you've had a chance to fill out the poll and we can pull the answers now. Okay, so everybody's tracking, pretty much everybody's tracking something, okay? Most people are tracking 1 to 3 of these things. And I listed these 5 things because they're probably some of the most important things to track. So I would say, whatever your size of business is, we do have to have a sales goal. And we do have to have a source for leads coming in and being able to measure that. We do need to know our process for converting a sale to a client or a lead to a client. And we do need to collect data on when our clients are having troubles so that we can fix them. And we definitely need to be able to collect on our client commitments. So it's a wonderful place to be. I hope, Kitty, you can write this down for us so that we can remember the results of this survey. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to our next KPI. And we'll close this. So prospect attraction is...
Angie, excuse me, by the way, you have quite a few comments in the chat. I don't know if you want me to read them or if you can take a look at those.
Yeah, let's go ahead and see what we've got. So the acronym for KPI is Key Performance Indicator. So it's just a way to say that we're trying to measure things in the business, Key Performance Indicator. And we have somebody that hasn't been able to define their client avatar. So here's something that I can suggest. as far as client avatar and how to get your handle on that. So what you want to do is take a list of your current clients and you want to measure your current clients. And there's a few criteria that you're looking for. And some of them are really easy and go back to our gut. So one thing is if your phone rings and you look at the caller ID and that client's name pops up, are you smiling? Or are you wanting to go throw up a little bit? Like, that's just the honest truth of it. If you love dealing with somebody, or if you don't like dealing with somebody, it's a very critical point of who develops the client avatar the best for you. So you want to do business with people that make you happy, that enjoy what you offer and the things that you're providing. So when you're going through your client list, you think about the happiness factor. You think about the margin factor, like whose project, everybody has a project that's taking way too much time to fulfill against, and their margins go down the track, or down the drain, should I say. So thinking about who's making a profit for you or who's just keeping you busy. Here's a news flash, folks. If people are just keeping you busy and you're not actually making money from them, then something has to change in that client relationship. Either they need to pay more for their service, you need to deliver less for the service, or some combination of both. Okay. Okay, so that one is a little bit about client avatar. I don't see more here. Is there any you can read out to me, Kitty?
Sure. Tracking and forecasting cash flow and staying on top of finances, understanding my current client base.
Oh, understanding your current client base. So what I would suggest this is a sweet spot analysis. Okay, so a sweet spot is when our top clients come together in this circle with our product and service offering that makes us unique, which comes together with a third circle at the bottom. So it's like a Venn diagram of efficiency and effectiveness. So that little spot in the middle where all three of these things intersect, that's where your sweet spot is. And if you're trying to get more business, it's about getting the right business. So first you have to identify who your top clients are, and you can go to some of those activities that we talked about. Then you have to identify what makes you different from your competitor. And then the third thing is the efficiency and effectiveness. Okay, so those are all different things that can be calculated and measured to come up with understanding the perfect client. Profitable leverage is kind of like, I see a question here it says, please repeat profitable leverage. So profitable leverage is when we are borrowing money, but we know what to expect. So what measurements are going to allow us to understand that we're borrowing money and we know what to expect? So one thing is knowing your average operational expense per month, knowing your average cost of goods per month. These are different points in the path. So if you borrowed $200,000, how long is that $200,000 going to last you? What's the runway you need until you start having enough sales, the intersection of sales and profit, where the money starts to take care of itself, right? So you can afford that money. That's what profitable leverage is about. Okay.
Angie, what is linchpin redundancy?
Linchpin redundancy, that's redundancy of the most important roles in your company. So typically in a small business, it's the owner. We wear so many hats. And is your time best spent? What I try to say is we want to focus, the owner should be focusing their time on $10,000 an hour activities. So take a look at the different tasks that are assigned to you as an owner that you're responsible for. And if these are $10 an hour tasks, $100 an hour tasks, $1,000 an hour tasks, maybe you're not the best person to be doing them. The business owner needs to focus on those tasks that have the highest propensity to hit that $10,000 an hour. So in linchpin redundancy, like one of the things that we can measure is who's responsible for what and how good are they at it, and understanding that.
I know you want to move on, but maybe one more here, tracking and forecasting cash flow and staying on top of finances.
On top of financing, I'm assuming that the person is referring to borrowed money. So that is a whole profit first thing. We're profit first professionals at Reconciled Solutions. And that is what I would recommend. And that's a whole measurement system. So there's all kinds of measurement criteria. All of this, though, starts with good basic accounting software and getting your numbers in place. So every one of these issues, you're going to need some of the data from your accounting software. So if you're in a position where your financials are not up to date and current, then that's the very first thing I'm going to suggest that folks pay attention to, is to get your financials into accounting software, get that up to date and current, and start speaking the language of your business by setting it up to understand what those numbers are telling you. Okay, Kitty, you'll let me know if there is something real pressing there.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Prospect attraction is about not enough leads coming in, not enough follow through on leads. I want to talk about this one. It's especially critical in small business because at one point, this is something that happens to every one of us. We start this small business. There's 1 or 2 or 3 people in your business, not very many. Everybody has to wear multiple hats. You get a big project, you get a big job, and everybody's energy goes into focusing on the client commitments and delivering against this big project or job. Well, what happens when that's going on is that nobody's generating leads and sales. So once that sale is completed and you moved on, there's nothing in the pipeline. So measuring the leads and keeping constant contact with automating your lead flows and trying to make sure that there's going to be continual lead flows is going to be very critical to your business. And it's very important as like a solo entrepreneur that you're building in time for the deliverables and you're also building in time for sales. You can't forget about sales if you've got a big opportunity that you're fulfilling against right now. And then people, one thing that small business owners do a lot of is throwing stuff at the wall to see if it sticks. Not clear on what results on your sales and marketing efforts. So that's all about measurability. And I will tell you one thing that small business owners are great at is being agile. We have the ability to shift direction very quickly. However, we don't have deep pockets generally. So what I would suggest when it comes to measuring your efforts on sales and marketing is really, you can only focus on maybe 2 to 4 things at one time. So if you have 5, 6, 7 groups that you're a part of and you're trying to gain traction in all of those groups, chances are it's just too many. There's only so much of you to go around. So you have to focus your sales and marketing efforts on a small portion, measure it, see if it's good or not good. And then you decide, am I going to tweak this and keep going, or am I going to drop it and try something else that sounds appealing to me? So that's a very measurable opportunity. Client conversion. Are we over-promising and under-delivering? That's a whole thing, and we can measure some of those. So if you take a look at, especially for professional service providers, if you take a look at what you have promised to your client, have you fulfilled every one of those? Can you check that off the list? Client conversion is also about not knowing who our ideal client is, or it's taking us too long to convert. I would say all three of these bottom ones about square peg and round hole, all three of those are related to understanding who your client avatar is and where they hang out. You want to go where they are, okay? So all three of those client conversion can be improved by understanding your client better. And one of the ways that you can understand your client better is by actually just going and talking with them. What do you like about doing business with us? What don't you like about doing business with us? What do you like in the industry? What don't you like about this industry? So those are just great questions. Delivering on client commitments is around client conversion onboarding, right? Like if you are in a professional services, how long does it take to get to the product and service that was promised? Sometimes it can take a really long time. Do you have good production quality? Did you deliver on everything you promised? And did you deliver on too much? Especially as small business owners, when we're new and we maybe don't know fully what our ideal client is, we often tend to over-deliver, would I say. We give them too much for the price that we've charged. So that's definitely something that we have to watch out for. Collecting on client commitments is, did you collect enough money up front to complete your whole cycle of the job? Did you stick to the progress invoicing like you had it set up in your mind, or did you stray from that? Were your invoices clear and easy to pay? Those are all things that we can do to help collect on our client commitments better. Okay, is there any other pressing questions out there? I can open up the chat at this time for anybody that wants to raise a hand and say something, or anybody that wants to post another question in the chat. We can open it up so that we can all chat amongst ourselves.
Angie, there's one question about someone who uses QBO, QuickBooks Online, but never knows which reports to review monthly.
Yeah, so your you should be receiving a financial package from your client or from your provider. If you're doing your own books, I would say that the most important reports would be a profit and loss comparison report. So you want to compare February of 2024 to February of 2023. And also in the profit and loss area, you can run that report with a percentage of income and percentage of expenses. And I think that that's super valuable information. So I would suggest those two reports. And the third one is to look at your balance sheet. So really understanding your balance sheet and whether your assets are going up and your liabilities are going down, or if you have problems on your balance sheet.
Angie, there was a few questions that came into the Q&A.
Okay.
What is the acronym KPI?
KPI is a key performance indicator. Sometimes people say KPO, key performance objective. So the objective is what you're shooting for. The indicator is where you're trending at.
Great. Please repeat profitable leverage.
So profitable leverage is is knowing that if you've borrowed this much, you have X amount of time to be using it before you're going to see it trending up and your resources or your investment paying off. So it's understanding when your investment is going to pay off and recognizing if you're not trending at the angle that you think you should be.
Looking for other questions.
Angie, for people in the service industry, a big problem is, in this particular case, it's an esthetician. Sometimes she has 4 people, sometimes she has 15 people. Ideas on consistency and how to track and how to help in that issue.
So when you say people, I'm assuming you mean clients. So sometimes you have 4 clients, sometimes you have 15 clients. So one thing you're always trying to do is, I'd say in an esthetician environment, you're trying to upsell. So if you did their eyebrows, can you do their lips too, or what have you? So upselling is one thing that you can do. And when you have variable labor, when you have variable client count, you also need to have variable labor. So you need to fill your Rolodex with subcontractors of who you feel would do good work, but aren't looking for a full-time commitment. So it's finding the person that would be willing to step out and help you and would do a good job fulfilling your client commitments. But they would be on a contracted basis versus an employee basis, because you don't know how long you're going to need them and you can't commit to them as an employee.
And Angie, here's a question that I know you could talk about 8 hours on, to give an overview on the Profit First system.
Oh, the Profit First system. My treasure. So the thing about small business owners is we didn't get into business to, run our numbers and understand this stuff, which also goes to the KPIs glossary that is going to be available to you here. So Profit First is just a budgeting system. It's kind of a grandma's envelope system for your small business. And what we do is, human beings are very based on habit. We're good at our habits, and it's hard to change our habits. So what we do in Profit First is we use the habits that we already have and leverage them. And what I mean by that is by setting up multiple bank accounts. So we set up a bank account and we label it income. And all the income from our business comes into this one account, and it sits in that income account until about twice a month. We would allocate it to sub accounts, so different bank accounts. So we'd figure out what our cost of goods or cost of services is, and say 50% of every dollar that comes in is going to go to the cost of services. So if you collected $10,000 and it's sitting in your income account, then you're going to transfer 5,000 of it to the cost of goods, and then you're going to pay your contractors from that second checking account. Now there's still $5,000 sitting up in your income account up here. And we want to transfer that money out as well, so that the balance goes down to 0 every time. And then we start fresh with new money coming in. And what we do is we look at how much is left after cost of goods. We call that real revenue. And then we split that 4 ways. We split the real revenue into profit, owner's pay, taxes, and operational expenses. So the owner's pay is the one I'm going to touch on. How owner's pay is different from profit. Owner's pay is different from profit because owner's pay is what we live on. So it pays our rent, it puts food on the table, it puts gas in our vehicles, okay? It does not, owner's pay does not provide us to go on a 3-week vacation to Europe and hop around and have fun, or to buy a Ferrari instead of buying a Prius, okay? That's not what owner's pay is for. It's to pay for our standard living expenses. Profit is to pay for the Ferrari, and it's to pay for your trip to Europe. So it's just an envelopes system for my questioner in managing your small business and understanding that every dollar that comes into your business has a purpose and a home.
There's somebody who wants to know how to contact you, Angie, so I know you've mentioned it.
Excellent. That's a wonderful prompt for this next piece here. So I have a free KPIs glossary. It's got the URL and the QR code, so you can do that. And then you will get that KPIs glossary and you can have our contact information that way. The other thing you're going to get from that KPIs, from that link, is to be able to take the Fix This Next assessment. So that's this business priority pyramid that we discussed, and you can take the KPIs assessment, and then I will meet with you for a few minutes and go over some of the key things that you should be measuring in your business based on how the results of your Fix This Next assessment go. So it takes about 20 minutes to fill out that KPIs or the Fix This Next assessment. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to set aside 20 minutes in your day to be able to do that. And then you can schedule an appointment with me and we will go through it. Okay. This is what the KPIs glossary. Well, here's also my contact information. Kitty, if you could put that up in the chat, that would be wonderful. And then I was going to show you this KPIs glossary that that we are offering to you for free. Okay, here it is. It has 3 tabs on it. This first tab is the glossary of terms. So this is just about speaking the language of accounting and understanding what different things mean. Okay, the profit first definitions are in here. And you'll find just a lot of things that talk about profitability in here, so that you understand some of the key terms. We then have a KPIs glossary that you can receive, and it talks about different things that we can measure in our business, and they're based on that business priority of pyramid. So this is divided by things that will help you measure sales. And we have a section of criteria that will help you measure profit, and one that will help you measure order. Okay, so those 3, in my opinion, are the very most important. So those are the ones that we've listed out different measurables for. And then there's KPIs frequency. So that's just saying, you know, some things don't need to be measured weekly, right? We can set an annual profitability goal or an annual revenue goal and compare against it the whole year, working towards that goal. But some things we're going to want to do quarterly, some things monthly, some things weekly. And then there's some that are applicable across all timeframes. So this is a list of those 3 items, and you're welcome to get that through the presentation.
Can you put the QR code up one more time? People are asking.
Sure.
And Geraldine, can the QR code be emailed to everybody, or?
I could send you the attendee list and you guys could send out the QR code.
Okay.
I don't see any more questions in the chat. Lots of thank yous, and it's really going to be very helpful in my business though, which is always great.
Did you guys get here? I'm having a little bit of technical here. It's not up, is it?
No. We're looking at the glossary of terms.
Okay, slideshow.
Well, we can send it out. We'll have,
I'm just struggling to get that up, so I think we'll have to do that.
yeah, we can do that.
No problem. Well, I think that is all the questions. And again, lots of thank yous coming in. Angie, tons of thank yous.
Good.
Uh,
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's great. What a great presentation. Really want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to help all these entrepreneurs. Kitty, thanks for your help in the chat. And everyone, thank you for attending this great webinar. I hope everyone has a safe and fun weekend and dry weekend too, since it's snowing in March.
One other thing that
Sure.
I've only given this presentation one other time, but I told that story about my husband and beating him up in the snow. Just want you to know, 25 years later, we're still married and, you know, still 3 happy kids. So he kept putting up with me. So I just wanted to share that.
That's great. Great to hear. Love that story. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.